Hi there, welcome to the video. My name is Anthony. This is actually my first YouTube video. I'm very excited to present today an application I've been building the last few weeks in a tool called Oracle Apex, which is hosted on top of Autonomous Database as well by Oracle. I'm going to be showcasing, yes, it as a portfolio project I've been working on. I just wanted to start here though. This is my homepage of my website at scopper1811.com. That's my domain. This here, if you click on Forge and then select click here to access, that is where the entry point will be to the application. So the subdomain will be forge.scopper1811.com. At the moment, it's not publicly available yet. I just wanted to showcase the progress I've been making on it so far, and once I've given it some more refinement and added a lot more features to it, I will make it publicly available so you're able to play around with it, test it out. I chose Forge because I thought it was a good name because it's where people can go themselves to create and build things. I just came up with some simple names for all the different sites I've got. So this here is my homepage, and then I've got a MK Docs site built on About. I'll just show you these other projects I've got here. So these are just, this is an MK Docs, the material framework for MK Docs. That's my About site. So I showcase my skills on this site here, and then back over here we've got platform, which I think I was planning to show you a bit later because there were some upcoming features where I do integrate platform and Forge that I was going to be talking about. But yeah, Forge today is what I was going to be showing. So I'll be back in a moment and open it up. Hi there, I'm back. I've opened up the Oracle Apex application, Scopper's Forge, as a progressive web app to show it to you as today. I did notice upon reviewing the initial video as in the intro that my mouth was a bit close to the mic and it didn't sound very pleasant at times, so I apologize for that. I have tried to put my mouth a bit further away from the mic right now. I will hopefully, if I'm going to be making more tutorial videos of my software solutions, I will invest in some better audio equipment so it is a bit pleasant to hear me narrate instead of how it might be at the moment. So this is the homepage for Scopper's Forge. So upon accessing the application, I've integrated an authentication service called Kinder, and as of now, and I assume so when I do launch the app and it's live and public, that the only auth method at the moment is email. So you type in your email and then you get a one-time use code sent to you and you type that in and then you're logged into the app. After launch, I don't think it will be before it becomes live to the public, but I will be looking at social integration so you can log in with your Google, Facebook account, etc. But for the time being, email, I believe, when it goes live will be the only auth method. So this is the homepage here. There is, within the application, there's different organizations, and think of organizations as your company or like the team that you're going, like your greater team that you'll be using the application with. So the feed here, every time someone joins or exits an org, then they'll be greeted to all of the other members so the other members of the same org will be able to see the person's username here, what the company is or the org name, and then the date that they were added or they left the org. The inbox will be coming soon. There will be some other communications that are more directed towards the user themselves that will land in this section of the page, but the feed is meant to be like a general town hall type of communication of when people are joining or leaving an org. at the bottom here, we've got this links back to those pages on the About site, which I think I showed before quickly. And then over here, we've got so I think one of my other services that I host is down at the moment, but this links back to my status page. It's just a summary of the status page. So if one of the services are down, then that's why it's saying that. But yeah, that my actual site and platform are up at the moment. I'm going to scroll down here. So I've logged in as one of the dummy users I've created called Henry Young. So for this tutorial I'm going through today of Scopper's Forge, I did just insert a bit of dummy data just to show you an example of how the functionality of the application itself works. So Henry Young is who we are logged in as today. So if I open up his profile, we can see that. So this is the email of Henry Young. That's when I logged in Kinder. That's the email of Henry. And then we've got, I'm going to exit this here, settings. This is going to be a place to customize your experience a bit more when you're accessing the application. But orgs here is where, so we can see that we're a member of Scopacaza Coffee Co. And the license that we have within that organization is administrator. So that will be the top out of the three in terms of access given to members of an organization. And then within the organization itself, this is where I did foresee each greater org would want smaller teams within the org in terms of giving access or permissions in order to edit data within the organization. So there's each organization can have multiple teams, and Henry is part of the finance committee. I just have created purely dummy data for this. We're going to move down into, at the moment, there's 4 different sections or apps at the moment within Scopper's Forge. So I'm going to click on this here, and as of now and at initial release, I am assuming I'll keep it that way, but each member can just be associated with one organization. But when it gets to the point where you can be part of multiple ones, you can click here and those multiple ones will come up. But we can see for Scopacaza Coffee Co, there's a profile for the org itself. So there's a brand name, there's an acronymic name, and the legal entity name. So the legal entity name would be Scopacaza Coffee Proprietary Limited. In Australia, that's the standard company format for like smaller companies, Proprietary Limited. And then when you get to bigger, I think it's if you have greater than 50 shareholders, then you've got to be a limited company, and that's what all the listed companies are in Australia. They're limited. But for this example, yeah, Scopacaza Coffee Co is just a smaller company, so that's why it's proprietary limited. And then the acronymic name I came up with, which is Scoffy. So that's the nickname of the company. And each company has a sector, an industry, a website. That's a fictional website. If you try to travel to this, it will just go to my own domain. It will reroute. And I just came up with a fictional address, purely just for this tutorial. And what I was talking about before, so each org can have multiple teams. So here we've just got one of them, and there's quite a few in this tutorial that I just made them for. The memberships of the org, as I said before, can be they can be by 3 different license types. So Henry Young is an administrator for Scopacaza Coffee Co, but there's contributor, which is the lowest out of the 3 at the moment, and then there is also moderator. So as of now, I haven't amended any permissions for those 3 different levels, but when the app becomes live, the admins will obviously be the ones that would be able to add and remove people to the org and give access to teams to different of the apps alongside here. And then contributors would be the ground level, just contributing to those apps. So if we go back here and go to teams, then this will display the teams within any organizations that you're part of. So this was the one that Henry is. We can see that, yeah, only Henry is in the finance committee, and we can edit, yeah, the position here. So you can create a position record along with, and then select the member here, and then edit the team's profile over here. I just realized I said record. So my professional role is looking after a Salesforce environment for a company. So I do get mixed up. I know the lingo in Salesforce is for the equivalent in relational databases is, so you have a table, which is the same thing as an object. So table in DB, object in Salesforce, and then in Salesforce, a field is what a column is in a DB, and then a record in Salesforce is what a row is in a DB. So I do mix up the two, and I do imagine, yeah, it's yet to come where I'll use the equivalent term from Salesforce and DB. I might overlap them a bit. My apologies about that, but I will try to keep them correct for what context I'm talking about. So because I'm dealing not with Salesforce but with relational DBs, Oracle right now, I'll try and use table, column, row instead of object, field, and record. And then as we get further down here, we've got the address book. So each org can have contacts associated with them, and the contacts will be utilized for some of the other apps that we're going to be coming across a bit later. But a contact here will have their profile, and I've just put in the minimal data required in order for the tutorial to go ahead. And then the lease association will be, so the lease association and property ownerships associated tables, that will be relevant for the Lease Logic app later on. But we can see here, if we go through, so Alara, one of these fictional contacts, we can see has a property ownership association. So this apartment here, which is, they're just random addresses I just picked out of Adelaide. There's no, yeah, it's all just fictional, but this, yeah, so Alara has 70% equity ownership in this particular apartment and no lease associations. If we go a bit further down, we can see Ethan has 30%, so the other 30% of the same property that Alara has. So together they make up the entire ownership. And then over here, Kian, we can see, doesn't have any equity ownerships, but does have a lease association. So we can see that that is, yeah, the same apartment, and Kian is actually, yeah, renting it at the moment, while Ethan and Alara are the landlords or the owners of it. And then Lucas as well is also renting it. And I do remember when I was preparing the dummy data, so we can see that Kian is staying there longer than Lucas. So we'll go into a bit later in how the lease association start and end dates relate to the lease itself. And then these other contacts, yeah, they didn't have any associated records. But locations is the next item here that we're going to go into. So locations as well as contacts, they can be associated with some of the other items a bit later on. But this is the fundamental data that needs to be added first before we deal with the stuff we're going to come across soon. But we can see that locations can be associated with accounts or properties. So this one here doesn't have any. This one here we can see is associated with that apartment that we came across a bit before. And then this one here is associated with an account, which in the vendor record app a bit later on, we'll be going into how they're related to each other, and an account with, yeah, the vendor record app. So this one here, yeah, doesn't have any associations. The accounts here, if we click on this account over here, then we can see the associated service agreements, which, yeah, as I said, we'll be getting into a bit more in the vendor record app. So service agreement is the organization that you're part of would have product categories and then products, and then you can sign a service agreement with a customer account or company but we'll get into that a bit later on. And then, yeah, orders is to do with vendor record as well. Now we're going to get into the lease logic application. So we can see if we select the only apartment that's we've got in here at the moment. So this is obviously in a single org. The lease logic app is designed for property management firms. So you'd have multiple apartments that they're managing as rows in the DB table, and they would appear here. And then the property profile is the details section over here. You can edit that here. And then the leases is where when you would sign a property lease with a group of tenants or a single tenant, that's where you would put in the start and end date and assign it to a specific property. So we can see that there's one active as of now. So it began in May. It's going to be ending in 8th. That's August. And then we can see the ownerships that we saw before in the contact page. We can see that there's a chart here that shows us, in a donut chart, how the equity ownership is distributed for this particular property. And then over here we can see that we can assign, we can record what the valuations are for the property. So if I go into one of them, we can see that out of all, I've just added some methods here that you can assign for what how the property was valuated. But yeah, we can see that as these are like purely fictional valuations. But yeah, we can see initially in 2014 it was 500k, 2020 800k, and in 2025 1 million. And then the maintenance requests, I haven't added any dummy data for the meantime, but this is where you could record requests that the tenant would have. So if there's an issue with the property or they'd like you to make an adjustment, we can record these details here. I'm going to get down into the property leases section now. So that lease that we spoke about before that was on the properties page, we can select that here and we can see the same page layout showing its details here. And we can also see that those two contacts that we came across before, they have lease associations with this particular lease for the property we had open before. So we can see Ken and Lucas, these are the start and end dates of their lease association. So we can see that on the 5th of May is when it began. On the 15th of August is when it will finish, and it looks like Kian is staying through the entire lease, but Lucas is not. So Lucas was here at the beginning of the lease, but is leaving a bit earlier to when it is ending. So I did, make lease associations have their own start and end dates, because I do imagine tenants wouldn't stay at the property the entire lease. In some cases, you might have some start at the beginning and they're not the same ones that finish at the end of the lease. And then here we can assign different rent rates that are going to be utilised throughout the lease lifetime. So in this case, it's just going to be one that is going to be used for this lease. So it's only a 3-month roughly lease, and I just made that purely just for the tutorial today. And we can see here that there are different rent weeks. So this is the first and then the second. So each rent week I've put is Monday to Sunday, and we can see that the rent rate that it looks up to from here. So we can, I'm going to have to fix this. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that issue was going to appear in the tutorial video. But yeah, a rent rate, when we open it up, we can see that it's assigned to a particular lease, and then the rate of that lease so the rates that are created within the lease will appear here that you can select. And we can see, so a rent week is supposed to be it will either be a single week or a fortnight depending on the lease agreement, but as well as the rent week showing how much the rent rate is for that time period, there is also going to be functionality within the app that I'm still in its development stage, and I wasn't going to showcase today, but an invoicing tool So you'll be able to construct an invoice from a template and merge the values of what is in the rent week into the invoice template. And so it will be an easy way to generate the invoice, send it to the tenant. And yeah, as of now, I haven't integrated any payment solutions, but I guess a simple way for it able to be utilized when it does become live initially is having the bank details on the invoice itself. I'm not sure what that particular invoicing method is called exactly, just like a simple bank transfer. But I think that is like a viable way that tenants pay landlords or the property management firm themselves. But eventually, yeah, I was going to look at incorporating a payment solution like Stripe or Paddle or Square into the app itself. So you could click one button, it will generate the invoice based on the details in the rent week and create a payments item in one of those payment solutions. The next section of the app that we were going to go over is the vendor accord. So my idea for this particular solution is that a company, I might rearrange the order of these navigation items here because it would make more sense for product categories to be first, and then products, and then service agreements, and then orders. But so product categories is, say, Scopper Cars or Coffee Co., this fictional org that we have. They're a coffee ingredient and supplier of equipment as well. So we can see that there are two categories in Scopper Cars or Coffee Co. There is ingredients, so food and consumable items that they sell. And we can see that one of the products is a 1 kilogram coffee beans. So the actual product itself is 1 kilogram bag of coffee beans. And the status of this product is active, so we can assign statuses to this product. Then we also have the product category of maintenance, which has a product associated with it, which is machine cleaner bottle of liquid cleaner for coffee machines. So I just came up with these quick ideas just for the tutorial. And then once we've created those products over here, we can create them into deliverables. So a deliverable is so you create so the company itself, Scopper Cars or Coffee Co., could sign a service agreement with a customer company, which is the accounts that we were going over before. So this particular service agreement is Scopper Cars or Coffee Co. has signed from the 1st of May up until the 30th of June with an account or a customer company called Bean and Barrel that they can sell to them 1 kilogram coffee beans. Each item of it is $40 and a machine cleaner bottle is $200 each. So the service agreement is from the start date until the end date. We'll sell you this product for a set price. So I do know that is the arrangement a lot of supplier and receiver companies have with mass large scale items and products. So I thought for this tutorial in showing Scopper's Forge, that was one of the apps that I was going to create. So a service agreement is a period of time where a supply company will sell to the customer company a product at a set price. So we've gone through the product categories and the service agreements, and you can also see deliverables of a specific product to the service agreement they're assigned to. So we can see that if Scopper Cars org had the same products associated with multiple service agreements, then it would show more on this list here. But we can see if we wanted to see which are all the customer companies we're selling machine cleaner bottle to, we can see in the deliverables report here that this is one of them, and there would be others if they were getting sold to other companies as well. And the customer company can put in an order, and that order will have these details here, so we can see that this is the location they're wanting it to. That was when they placed it, And these are the order items. So they've ordered 1 kilogram coffee beans, 4 of them, and one machine cleaner bottle. Um, so an order contains deliverables, and a deliverable is one of the products at a set price that is associated with a service agreement. And the product of the deliverable is within product categories. That's just a rough overview of the schema that I created in order for this to function. And eventually, yeah, prior to release of the app, before it goes live, an order will have, if you open up an order here, there will be a button to generate an invoice, and that invoice will grab the details of the order and calculate the total cost, and then you can select which payment method you opt to have the customer company pay the order in. I did think about, but I think for the time being, yeah, I'm not going to release it like how I'm about to explain for some time, but a service agreement, when it is signed and with a customer company, at the moment, the org itself, who you're operating from in the address book, you have to create an account for who you're dealing with. But I did think about how another org themselves, you can connect with. So your org will connect with another org, and instead of the customer field looking up to an account in your address book, the customer will actually look up to another org. So there would be a dashboard for that other org to look at to see in real time the status of the orders that they've placed, and the stats associated with their service agreement and their product purchase history, etc. I did want to show you something on platform, a prototype so far of. I'll pause the video here and I'll see you in platform actually. Hi there, I'm back. This part of the video, the final section, I wanted to show you Scopper's platform. So this is at the subdomain platform.scopper1811.com. There, at the moment, it doesn't contain the integration between Scopper's Forge that I will be developing and will hopefully be available upon release of the Forge app itself. But I did want to showcase, roughly what it is going to look like based on the other features of the app that are currently available on there. So this here is a Streamlit app. It's built with a Python library called Streamlit, which I'm a very big fan of. The Streamlit library, I find it's a really efficient, simple way to create user interfaces without having to learn, JavaScript libraries. I love Python a lot more than I like JavaScript, so I find it's a really useful tool to create data visualization solutions. At the moment, so I did it. This did used to have a lot more functionality and features, but like an amateur, I did create everything specific to the different pathways that you would take within the application. So I wrote like so much code that could have been overlapped and reused if I had initially, upon fundamentally creating the app itself, create functions that would have been reused. So at the moment, I am in the middle of rewriting the entire app, so there isn't hundreds of lines of code that are redundant to the other hundreds of lines of code associated with the other pathways that you would take when using the application. So I'm creating functions that are going to be used multiple times depending on the pathway that you take. I did start making this last year, and it did have quite a few features for a while, but at the moment I scaled everything back and I'm starting fresh and still writing all those initial functions in order to have them used throughout all the different pathways. So up here is where you'd select an object. So I just imported data sets and thought I'd make just some data visualization solutions just as a portfolio project to show how, based on data that I've imported, how I can visualize that and present that to an audience. So, for example, we can select the countries object here, and this is just Scopper's Assistant. It's just a little chatbot that I've written myself. It's not a LLM. It's not an AI chatbot, so you can't actually have a conversation with it. It doesn't understand human interaction with it, and there's no way to talk to it yourself. I was going to integrate some other AI solutions so it would be able to see the data that you're seeing as well, and then you can have a discussion with it, and it can help you understand the data because it will also be able to see what you're looking at. But I'm not most likely going to implement that for some time. But yeah, so we can select the countries object up here, and then an item search is where we would select a specific country. So if we wanted to see data associated with United Kingdom, we would select that here. And upon the page loading, so it is querying the data set that I've imported, and it will show just some basic data about the country itself that you've selected, and then the chatbot, depending on which data has been input, which country you've selected, and the data that's been queried. The chatbot will construct a paragraph of specific to that country you selected, just briefly describing it. And then over here, we can select a piece of economic data. So if I wanted to view the let's have a look. Fixed telephone subscriptions. I was searching for landline then, but yeah, fixed telephone subscriptions. I can select that piece of economic data, and then it will display some data visualization items here. So we can see in a table that increasing by year since the beginning of when I was able to obtain it from. It has the quantity of the number of fixed telephone subscriptions, and then the percentage increase per year up until 22. That's the latest. I think all of the economic data that's currently in there at the moment it will show, and then over here we can see the minimum, maximum, and the average, and then the largest percentage change, and then the smallest percentage change, or the largest decrease, so whatever the lowest number is. And that's the average percentage change per year for this piece of economic item specific to that country. And then we can see in an area chart here, if you hover over the line, you can see what the y-axis value is, along with, so this here in the 27.34 million is the y-axis value, and then the x-axis was the year 1993. So the source of this data is data bank from the World Bank. There are, we can, I can show another example of if we wanted to view Australia's. So we'd select Australia first to view the country itself, and then the chatbot will spit out a brief description of the country's basic data, and then we can see it's all it's going to have fixed telephone subscriptions selected already. It's very interesting to see how there was a time when it increased greatly, and then in the last 10 years it's decreased a lot. I guess that's quite normal though, because everyone's adopted mobile phones. But we can look at another economic item, so gross national expenditure. If we wanted to view that for Australia, then this page will update after querying for that specific data. And we can see it's in the exact same format as what we went through before, but the data is now specific to gross national expenditure of Australia. And then this area chart here shows that data in the same format as before as well. So my idea was, and it will likely, yeah, I'll have it released as well alongside Forge being publicly available. But you'd be able to select, I want to view a particular product category, and you would select that. So you'd log into the Streamlit app. It would still be publicly available without logging in to view the economic data and the other items that I'll be adding back in that we could see at the home screen before, where I said they're not available yet. But you would select, once you've logged in with Kinder to the Streamlit app as well, then whatever data you have created or was already existing in the org back on Forge, you would be able to select the product categories associated with those orgs that you're a member of in Forge, and then a table would show the products with the most amount of sales, or assigned to the, like the high, you would have a table increasing. So the highest value would be the product on the most number of service agreements. So that's your company's most popular product, and then the table would decrease down by the quantity of service agreements that it's associated with. So it would just be a good way to visualize that data of how well a particular product is selling or is being signed onto service agreements, and then you could have a similar. So I'll be using these data visualization similar ways to display the data, but it will be specific to each month, how well, like the quantity of sales for specific products and how they compare to each other. That's what I was going to, I'm planning to incorporate into the platform app. So that, will be integrated with Forge. Hopefully by the time I release Forge, I'll also have this available. Thank you for watching. I understand, and I've realised that this is a very long video. I wasn't planning for it to be as long, but it is my first video, and I just wanted to showcase some of the solutions I have already created, and let you know what's coming, what's planned. These are portfolio projects that I just like to show what I can do with these technologies, like Streamlit and Oracle Apex. These videos and the apps themselves are just showcases of some solutions that can be made with these specific technologies. I hope, to see you in Forge and Platform, if you like the look of them and you want to try them out quite soon. Thank you, again for watching, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.